Jai Shri Gandharvika ki Jai. Jai Shri Guru ki Jai. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yashodanandana Vayava Jairanjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gandharika Giridhari, Gandharika Giridhari, Gandharika Giridhari Radhe. Gandharika Giridhari, Gandharika Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Goranitaya, Jaya Goranitaya, Jaya Goranitaya, Jaya Goranitaya, Goranitaya, Jaya Goranitaya. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Srila
Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radhika Raman Giriju Ki Jai Ho. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Maha Vandanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaur Tavashe Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali to the lotus feet of my Harinam Diksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, our Srila Prabhupada. Second of all, to my Bhajan Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, our Gurudev, and to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and to the entire Guru Parampara, and especially to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his Madhurya Kadambini. And today is a very special day. We have to speak a little bit about the glories of today. Today is Snāna-yātrā of Lord Jagannath, and it's a disappearance day of Mukunda Datta and Śrīdhara Pandit. What a glorious day. So, going way, way back to Satya Yuga is the beginning of Snāna-yātrā, actually. From the Skanda Purana, we hear that King Indradyumna, we know the story. I'm not going to tell the whole story of how Jagannath appeared. That's a whole episode. And there's different mysterious appearances of Jagannath also. There's a story of King Indradyumna. There's a story of Dwarka, when Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra are listening at the door, Rohini speaking to the queens, the glories of Braj. Then there's another story of Krishna actually coming to Braj and seeing Srimati Radhika. So there's so many different stories, leelas of how Jagannath appeared. And there's different kalpas, so he appears in different ways in different kalpas, like this. But in Satya Yuga, the very first and the most common understood appearance of Jagannath is with King Indradyumna. And after Jagannath appeared, King Indradyumna, he wanted to have a big ceremony to install Jagannath. And it was at that ceremony that the first Snāna-yātrā was performed. He arranged for the first Snāna-yātrā way back in Satya Yuga. And it's been going on ever since. It's very, very traditional. Yeah. And it's the beginning of the whole Leela of Ratha Yatra, isn't it? Because after Snāna-yātrā, what happens? Krishna becomes a little sick. Too much water. He goes into seclusion and on and on and on. And before Snāna-yātrā, we had Chandan-yātrā. And then we had the boat festival. Lord Jagannath in his Vigraha, Vilas Vigraha, I think it's Radha Madan Mohani, boats around in Narendra Sarovara, like this. So many wonderful pastimes. So today, Snāna-yātrā will start the next episode of Lord Jagannath's Leelas with Ratha Yatra. And it's a very special day in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, all the Thakurjis tonight will be having Snāna-yātrā. It's gorgeous. They all wear white, and they all have fountains, and all the temples serve fruit, Mahaprasadam to everyone, and everyone's in a really joyous mood. Madan Mohan, Gopinath, Govinda, Damodar, Radharaman, everywhere. And so many pilgrims come to... one time, I was in Jaipur for this festival, and it was exquisite. Radha Govinda in Jaipur, because the devotees there, they've been having like a traditional Snāna-yātrā for years and years and years. And there's one family who's been making the flower outfit for Govinda. It's amazing. It's like generations, and it's like lace. Out of these little white flowers, you know, the jasmines, they make these these outfits for Radha Govinda. And this is what he's wearing, you know, when he's being bathed. And they have a whole kunj, and you can't even see the person's behind the kunj, and they're pouring the water down through the kunj, and he's being bathed. But before that, and he actually has kind of like a bathtub. It's amazing. And what they do for Mangal Artik is you come to Mangal Artik in Jaipur for Radha Govinda, and the bathtub is like a bathtub. And you can only see Radharani at the top of her head because it's up, right? You can kind of see Govinda a little bit more. But then for the Snāna-yātrā, they have the front of the bathtub comes down like a little door. So then you can see all of them for this Snāna-yātrā. It's so sweet, so sweet. So this day, Purnima, is called, they call it Deva Snana Purnima. That's what it's called in the Skanda Purana. And let's see here. So also today is the disappearance day of Mukunda Datta, a very special associate of Mahaprabhu, and Śrīdhara Pandit. So Mukunda Datta is the younger brother of Vasudeva Datta, the Datta brothers. And Vasudeva Datta is very famous for wanting to take all the sins of the universe and suffer them so that they could all go back home, back to Godhead. And Mahaprabhu says, you have purchased me. I am yours. I am the property of Vasudeva Datta. Well, Mukunda Datta is his younger brother. And Mukunda Datta was very famous for his melodious, exquisite singing, kirtan. His kirtans were incredible. He was one of the singers in one of the groups around Lord Jagannath. Remember, there were 7 groups, and Mukunda Datta is one of the main singers. And he was also the singer when he took to, I think I told the story last week, I told it sometime, when Gadadhar Pandit was going to meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He was taken by Mukunda Datta to meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Gadadhar Pandit. And as we know, Pundarik Vidyanidhi is very opulent externally, but he's actually Maharaj Rishabhanu, an eternal associate, the father of Radharani. So anyhow, when Mukunda Datta started singing some verse from about Putana from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was completely overwhelmed with prema. Prema Vista. And he tore everything up, he rolled on the ground, everything became smashed. So much for his opulence, so much for his luxurious clothes and this and that. It was Mukunda Datta who understood who Pundarik Vidyanidhi was. Because I think they were born in the same town, somewhere in Bangladesh. I forget the name of where they were born. He knew him from then. And then he had come to Navadvip, and he was a friend of Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, a school friend, a schoolmate, like this. But in Puri, he was also there in Puri with Mahaprabhu, and he would sing, as we know, in the Rath Yatra, and at other times too, he was always singing. He was also, before that, in Navadvip, he was there for Srivasangam, for the kirtans in Srivasangam. And he was one of the ones, because he was a schoolmate of Mahaprabhu, and when Mahaprabhu was performing the Leela of being a student, as we know, Nimai Pandit, he was not exhibiting himself as a real devotee, was he? So he would see his friends, and he would call them over and try and defeat them in argument, and he would like make fun of, like this. And when they would see him coming, they would run the other way because they just didn't want to waste their time in this scholastic debate, So Mukunda Datta was one of those when he would run, when he would see Mahaprabhu coming. But later in Puri, because by that time everyone understood who Mahaprabhu was, and he was exhibiting his Leela as a topmost devotee in the mood of Srimati Radharani, right? But Mahaprabhu actually, no, it's in Navadvip. when he was exhibiting his Satpariya, I forget how to say it, when he was exhibiting his opulences and he was calling everyone and giving them prema. Actually, it's in Navadvip. Yeah, not in Puri. Later is Puri, that's Rath-yatra. And he called for everyone to come. And he was giving them prema. And I'll tell the story about Śrīdhara Maharaj at that time, but right now we're talking about Mukunda Datta. He also called his mother, but he wasn't going to give her prema, if you remember, because she had offended Advaitacharya, because she had said, oh, he's Dvaita, not Advaita, because he made my son Visvarup go away. Oh, wow, everyone was so shocked. Wait, it's your mother, plus she's the mother of the universe. How are you not going to give her prema? But he said, no, she has to apologize. So one time when Advaitacharya was in ecstasy, he was rolling on the ground, then she went and touched his feet. So then Mahaprabhu accepted. But anyhow, he did not call for Mukunda Datta. He said, no, I won't see Mukunda Datta. Everyone was shocked. Why? And there's a word for it, I forget what it is in Bengali, but sometimes he's like very nice and he's very pleasing to me, and then sometimes he's stabbing my heart. Because sometimes he's singing so nicely and he's such a nice, but sometimes he's going here and there and hearing and singing at different, like Mayavadi, Sahajis, this place, that place, and at that time he's stabbing my heart. And so Mukunda Datta, he was like pretty unhappy. And so he asked the devotees to ask Mahaprabhu if he'd ever have his darshan again. And Mahaprabhu said something like after 10 million births or something, a long time. And Mukunda Datta, it was because he's actually an eternal associate. He's a singer. What's his name? Madhukanta, I think. It's his name in Krishna Lila. He's a singer in Krishna Lila there also. So he was overjoyed. Oh, I will see. One day I will see. And when Mahaprabhu heard that, he was laughing. He said, bring him here. Bring him here. His faith is so deep. And he told him, don't do this anymore, going here and there like that. So Mukunda Datta is very special, very special. And his singing was so sweet, so sweet. Now Śrīdhara Pandit, he was a little bit older. He was a Brahmin. Now he is a cowherd boy in Krishna Lila, Kushamashava or something like this. Kushamashava, I think it is. He was a cowherd boy. Anyhow, he was a little bit older and he was very poor. And he lived in, what do you call it, Simantadweep. His residence, Śrīdhara Anga, is near Chandkazi's Samadhi. And there's many pastimes with Mahaprabhu and Śrīdhara Pandit. When Mahaprabhu was, the first pastime is when Mahaprabhu was younger. Nimai, like Nimai Pandit, before he's like exhibiting being a devotee, right? And Śrīdhara, he had a banana orchard, right? Or what do you call it? Banana field. And he would sell the banana flowers, the banana, fruit, the banana stalks, the banana leaves. This is how he made his earning. And he had a very dilapidated old house. That was his bhajan kutir. And whatever he made in a day, he would use half of it to worship the Ganges and half of it to maintain himself, right? And he didn't make much. So Mahaprabhu loved Nimai Pandit. Let's call him Nimai. He's not Mahaprabhu. There's Nimai Pandit would come, this young, teenage, He was very, very joking, very joking. And he'd go up and he'd try and steal Śrīdhara Pandit's, something from him. And Śrīdhara Pandit would catch him and try and take everything back, and they'd have this joking, struggling, and sometimes it would go on for an hour and a half, a long time. Because actually, both Nimai Pandit and Śrīdhara were enjoying it very much. They were enjoying this arguing and struggling, and Śrīdhara would say, I'm just a poor Brahmin, you can't take this, you can't just take it, I need this money to worship Ganga Devi, and Mahaprabhu would say, well, I'm the husband of Ganga Devi, and Śrīdhara would he doesn't even have any fear of, the Lord, so they would be having these delicious, really sweet, arguments. And then sometimes Mahaprabhu would just go off with everything for free, or sometimes he'd pay half the price like this. But it was a very sweet, sweet, like cowherd boys, isn't it? Like that. Like that. And so later, when Mahaprabhu was exhibiting his opulence and he was giving prema, he called for Śrīdhara. And when Śrīdhara came and he saw Mahaprabhu as who he is, then he fainted and then he offered prayers. And Mahaprabhu was and he was in complete ecstasy, weeping. And Mahaprabhu was so pleased with him. He said, ask for a boon. I want to give you anything. And I want to give you the mystic opulences. I want to give you all this. And he said, no, I don't want anything. You must take some. Okay, I only will take that the Lord who used to steal all my bananas and everything would be my Lord birth after birth, and I could serve him. That's all he wanted. So simple, huh? That simple relationship of love and affection, that prema, that's what he wanted eternally. And also when Mahaprabhu was Nimai Pandit, by that time it's probably Bhakta Nimai, when he was going to chastise the Chankasi, and they had the huge Sankirtan party, remember? And they had all the what do you call them, with fires on top, the sticks with fire, what do you call those? Torches, yes, torches. My mind is slipping. So we had the fire torches, and he was going with hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of devotees. They were going towards the Chankasi, because remember, he had broken the Mridanga. He had tried to stop the Sankirtan movement. He had threatened Srivas Pandit. So they're going with thousands of first of all, they stopped at Śrīdhara Pandit's, like this. And I think it was at that time when Nimai, he took some water from Śrīdhara's old broken iron pot. He just had this broken pot. He had some water in there. Mahaprabhu took it and drank it, like this. And Śrīdhara, he fainted. He was feeling so like he'd committed a big offense. But Mahaprabhu was showing that a devotee, everything about a devotee is pure. The water in his broken iron pot is pure. Everything about a devotee of this caliber, like Śrīdhara Pandit, everything is pure. We take their water, we take their foot dust, we take everything that they have. It's completely pure. And then after he had the whole incident with Chankasi, they also went back to Śrīdhara's house and they rested. That's why it's called Vishram Anga. Vishram Stan, the place of resting, like that. So he would take rest there. Let's see. I don't know if I can, I think that's all that I remember about Śrīdhara. Anyhow, he was very, very dear. And he did not go and stay with Mahaprabhu in Puri, but he would come every year with the Navadvip devotees that were headed by Shivananda Sen would bring them, and the leader was Advaitacharya. They would go every year, the Navadvip devotees, to Puri for Rath-yatra. They would participate in Rath-yatra. So, and Mahaprabhu was, if you read the descriptions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Mahaprabhu meeting with the devotees that are coming to see him, it's really heart-wrenching. You know, he was so happy to see his devotees coming. And then when they would leave after 4 months, he would be it would be heartbreaking, you know. He was so attached to his devotees. And he is always attached to his devotees. So we should understand that actually Mahaprabhu is also very attached to us. And he wants us now to become qualified so that we can have his personal association. So as Srila Bhakti Rakshak Śrīdhara Maharaj was saying, no, I think it was Gaur Govinda Maharaj, it was Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He was saying, so Mahaprabhu, he embraced Jagai and Madai. He embraced them. And they were so sinful. They were more sinful than we are, or so sinful. Why is he not embracing us? Why? Because we don't go to him. We aren't approaching him like they did and said, yes, we're going to give up everything. Because Mahaprabhu's waiting to embrace us, waiting to give us everything, like that. So that's why we're studying Madhurya Kadambini, isn't it? So that we can become qualified to receive that, not just the mercy of Mahaprabhu as a process of bhakti, which is what Madhurya Kadambini is teaching us, the process of bhakti and the stages and the steps, but actually so that one day we can actually have personal darshan of Krishna. Krishna is Radha and Krishna is Sachinandan Gaurhari. And one day we can enter into Leela. We can enter into the Leela of Radha and Krishna as the maidservant of Srimati Radhika. We can enter into the Leela of Mahaprabhu as a follower of Rupa Goswami. This is why. So we can attain our real Swarup. So our potential can become a manifest reality as soon as possible. So now we have made some progress. We have come through Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nartana Vritti, Nishta. Now this week we're up to shower number 5, Ruchi. This is and it's a very short chapter. Now one thing is I'm not so qualified really to speak about Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhav and Prem, but we will try and at least repeat what we have read and speak about it a little bit for our own purification, for my own purification, and also as our aspiration. Now we're looking at our aspiration. Why are we performing our sadhan bhajan? Why are we hearing, chanting, and remembering? Why are we taking initiation from Satguru? Why are we doing bhajana kriya? Why are we doing what he says, which is bhajana kriya? Why are we desiring anartha nivritti so the anarthas can go? Why? We talked last week so we can get steady. We can become steady, nishta, like this. But that's not the final goal. Sadhan bhajan is not really sadhan bhajan. We're not really sadak. Well, sadaks is a high thing. Sadhan bhajan means with the aim to attain bhav. If we're not having the aim to attain bhav, and for our bhav to manifest as prem, to fructify into prem, we're not really performing sadhan bhajan. All of our acharyas say this. If you don't have a goal, then you're just chanting, but it's not really sadhan bhajan. You may be practicing some bhakti, but it's not sadhan bhajan. Sadhan bhajan is only if you have the goal to attain bhav, and then your bhav bhakti will attain prem. So now we've come to ruchi, isn't it? This is where we're getting there, and after that will be a sakti, and then hopefully bhav. So this is part of that process, the sadhan bhajan, with the aim of attaining bhav. So in ruchi, ruchi comes, it's described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when the sadhak has been holding in his heart this bhakti that is starting to awake. He has the jewel of bhakti in his heart. And it's shining. It's like gold. And he's been polishing that jewel or that golden medallion with the practice, steady practice, with his nishta, his steady practice of hearing, chanting, remembering all the 9 limbs of bhakti. He's been polishing that jewel. And so when that happens, or when the jewel is put into fire, gold is put into it, it becomes so brilliant. What happens? The awakening of ruchi starts. Ruchi starts naturally awaking. And before, what seemed very difficult, now it's not difficult. It's because some actual taste is coming. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives the example of a Brahmin boy. A Brahmin boy when he starts his studies. They seem really difficult. He's doing Sanskrit. This is tough. He's learning Sanskrit. He's reading it. It's very, very difficult. But as he progresses and he keeps doing it, he doesn't stop. That's that nishta. Steady practice. So with steady practice, finally he starts to understand the meaning. He starts to understand. And then he starts to relish. He relishes his studies. He doesn't want to give them up, and he never gets tired. This is ruchi. In ruchi, we never feel fatigue. That obstacle, remember there, the sleepiness is gone. The obstacle of having, even though nothing is a problem, you can't do it. You know, you don't have a desire for other sense gratification. Your past bad habits aren't coming. You know, your mind isn't wandering to Monday. No. Now, when you chant, you relish it. And then even more, first you start relishing, actually they say here, Harikatha. First you get a taste for Harikatha. A deep, deep taste. Relish in Harikatha. And then even more so, coming a relish in chanting. And then a relish in what? Remembering. And it's all unique according to an individual, according to the individual devotee. But he never gets tired, and he wants more and more, like this. He he feels like anything that's not related to bhajan of Bhagavan is worthless, a useless waste of time. That's how he starts to feel. Any activity, anything, he feels, oh no, it's just a waste of time. Worthless. See, we're talking about this so that we can understand this is an aspiration, and also to understand, wow, this stage will come. So we won't get depressed thinking, I'm always going to be in this really difficult stage of a narta and a vritti where it's really hard, you know. And as we talked about, these anartas are stabbing us in the heart, so we're having a hard time relishing anything, you know. No. If we keep practicing, if we have unflinching faith, like this, if our faith and we just keep practicing, we take the words of Sri Guru and Vaishnavas to heart, and we believe what they say. They say, don't worry, Ruchi is coming. Ruchi will awaken. It's not that we have some taste now. We could never go on if we don't have a little bit of taste, but we don't have the stage of Ruchi, which is when there's no fatigue, there's no defect, like this. You see, that we haven't reached that stage yet, but it will come. We keep practicing, it's promised. It's promised, it will come. And it's a very tasty, very delectable stage. And the example is also given that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the example of jaundice. We are like a jaundiced person. The disease, of course, is avidya. We're sick. Our disease is ignorance, right? That's our jaundice. And so what is the what do you call it? The medicine for jaundice is rock candy, isn't it? Here we call it mishri in India. I don't know if we, even around the India, I mean around, do you have it in South America? Rock candy? We don't really have it in America. No, anyhow, but here in India, it's a known fact by Ayurveda that rock candy, and all the saints and sages, rock candy. You take rock candy, jaundice, and it tastes bitter. When you first take it, when you have jaundice, it tastes terrible. You know, can you imagine? Sugar, rock sugar. But if you keep taking it and taking it and taking it, it cures the jaundice. And eventually you'll taste that sweet taste of mishri, of rock candy. It'll become very, very sweet. I've had jaundice, I know. We've all had jaundice. Yeah. So, similarly, what is the cure for the disease of avidya? That is bhakti. Hearing, chanting, remembering bhakti. That is the medicine. And we have to do it steady, steady, steady. And then what happens? Just like with jaundice and the sweetness of the rock candy, then the sweetness of bhakti will come. That sweetness will for sure come. Like that. So we keep with the stage of steady bhakti, and we keep going then. And what is the sweetness that we will taste? It's been described. The Madhurya that we will taste. That's the sweetness of the name, form, qualities, pastimes of who? Sri Krishna. His Madhuryas. We will taste that. And to the degree that our heart is cleansed, we'll taste more and more and more. Like this. So there's two kinds. Oh, and in the stage of nishta, something naturally comes. Some desires naturally come. First, the desire to serve Krishna favorably, number one. Number two, to serve Krishna with intimacy. Number three, to attain Krishna, to actually attain him, enter into Leela like this. But at this stage in Ruchi, these desires are really, what do you call it? They're, what's the word? Impelled by our intelligence. But as we keep practicing, when we finally, and this Ruchi, as we keep tasting and practicing, it naturally awakens the next stage, which is attachment, ashakti. Because if you're really tasting something, you get attached. Like in jaundice, if you start tasting the sweet taste of mystery, you want more and more rock candy. So if you're tasting the sweet names of Krishna, or seeing the sweet form of Krishna, like this, you want more, and you want, you get attached. You don't want anything else. Everything else is rubbish. So a Shakti naturally comes. You see, Ruchi naturally turns into a Shakti. And at that stage in a Shakti, this desire to serve Krishna favorably, to attain him, to serve him with intimacy, comes spontaneously. At that stage it comes, that's when the spontaneity finally starts manifesting. Because we talk about Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, like this. So it first starts really manifesting in a Shakti. And it comes full-blown in Bhav and Prem, like this. But before that, our intelligence is really required. Because if we don't use our intelligence, then we'll become attached to the wrong thing. You can see that here in Vrindavan, in Bengal, in Orissa, around the world too, but it's more gross around the world. Here it's more subtle. We have so many Sahajya groups, and they become so attached to things that are not actually bhakti, but they look like they're bhakti, right? Like this. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing. So we have to be very, very careful. Follow Sri Guru and Sri Vaishnavas and their instruction, and what they tell us and what we're reading here, what is real bhakti. Bhakti ultimately has to become free from all material desires, free from all selfish desires, even if they're spiritual. Bhakti has to be, as we're hearing now, favorable to Krishna. Nothing to do with our own desires. It has to be for the desire of Krishna, and intimate, and wanting to attain him, make him happy, serve him, like this. That is bhakti. Not that like in many groups that we see around, actually they're for their own pleasure, like this. Not for the pleasure of Krishna, according to Sri Guru, Sri Vaishnavas, and the Shastras. Like this. We have to always have this balance and this protection. Like in some Sahajya groups, they actually feel, oh, well, we want to practice Madhurya Bhakti, Shringar Ras, Parakiya Bhav. So we should keep connections with a lady who's married to someone. And we're practicing Parakiya Bhav. This is real. These things are going on. And there's many, many different varieties like this. But our Guru Parampara has strictly forbidden us, they've strictly told us how to practice bhakti. We do not, we do not have relationships with other ladies, with other men's wives, or with other ladies' husbands. We don't do this. This is not practicing Parakiya Bhav. This is simply lust. It's very simple, like that. So we have to be very careful, in the stage of Ruchi, that the Ruchi is pure. We're desiring pure Ruchi. And that's a whole different taste than the taste from sense gratification. It's from inside. It's a spiritual, pure emotion. It's not a mundane, lusty emotion. There's a big difference. So Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur goes on to explain that there's two kinds of ruchi when we're actually in the stage of ruchi. One is a ruchi, and it's called, I'm not so good at the Sanskrit, it's called, where is it over here? It's called Vastu Vashishta Apekshani Ruchi. And that is when the ruchi that the devotee has, the sadhak has, in kirtan, harikatha, Thakurji seva, that is dependent on external excellence. Like you're really only going to get ruchi if the Thakurji is dressed very beautifully, everything's done really opulently, very, certain the way to your standard that's supposed to be, like this. Or the kirtan's very melodious, the singer sings really melodiously, the instruments are very in tune. Or the harikatha has ornate language, beautiful language like this. The external excellencies have to be there, or the taste isn't really there. That means our minds are still, there's still some, what do you call it? There's still some slight contamination there in the mind. This is beginning ruchi, but there's still some contamination. The mind is still some impurities there. But when there's no dependency on any external excellencies, when you hear anyone chanting Hare Krishna, when you see Thakurji, even there may be dust all over them, because sometimes you go and there's, they're not being taken care of, such a high standard. Or you hear Harikatha and the person doesn't know, isn't speaking such ornate language, doesn't matter. Because you have unflinching faith, you've reached this level where just to hear the name Krishna brings so much taste, so much like this. That is called Vastu Vashishya Anapekshani Ruchi. Ruchi that will come no matter what. With the hearing of the holy name, hearing Harikatha, seeing Thakurji. But with this kind of ruchi, if there is excellence, then your taste is even more. You see? Yeah, so your taste is just increasing and increasing and increasing like this. That's ruchi, like this. Now, the second kind of ruchi is very powerful. Extremely powerful. The first kind is not so powerful, but the second kind is extremely powerful. And it means that our minds are completely free from all of our past contamination, like that. And there's no defect in the mind and heart at all. And this stage means that we'll be brimming with enthusiasm. Our faith will be unflinching like this. And just a clear channel like that. And enthusiasm is just coming from our hearing and chanting. And then that will develop into ashakti. Now there's one last part of ruchi, which is, I'm actually going to read and comment because it's a little bit difficult to just speak because I don't have ruchi. So this is how a person in ruchi feels. So it's quite amazing, actually. Quite amazing how a person in ruchi feels. It's text 4 in the 5th shower. It's called the despondency and bliss of a person in whom ruchi has awakened. So if ruchi is actually there, this is how someone will feel and talk. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is what this sadhak with ruchi will say. Oh, my friend, having abandoned the nectar of the name of Sri Krishna, why are you becoming absorbed in talk of acquiring and maintaining that which is difficult to attain? What shall I say to you? Fie on me indeed. By the mercy of the lotus feet of Sri Guru, a most sinful person like me attains something as great as devotion to the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Bhakti. Not understanding its value, I have forgotten about it, just as one may forget about a precious jewel bound within the hem of one's cloth. You put some jewel here and you're going to forget about it if you're going along. In this way, I wander here and there in the hope of attaining false, insignificant happiness. So he's considering himself that he's just wandering after mundane things and it's so insignificant. I had this precious jewel, but I've forgotten. Someone in Ruchi is having this kind of anxiety. It's a spiritual anxiety. Just as one searches in all directions for for some, it says here, chipped chowri, which is a shell that's used as money. I have abandoned the practice of Bhagavad Bhakti and wasted my entire life. So someone in Ruchi is thinking he has wasted his entire life. And we see that in the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, don't we, and Narottam Das Thakur, when sometimes they're saying, "Fie on me. I have wasted my entire life. I'm so sinful." But they're not just in Ruchi, Narottam Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda, they're in praying. And they feel like this. They actually feel so humble. So I have abandoned the practice of Bhagavad Bhakti and wasted my entire life wandering throughout the ocean of worldly sense gratification. By not accepting and engaging in any of the activities of bhakti, I've exposed my complete powerlessness. So they're thinking, even though they're doing bhakti, they're thinking they're not doing bhakti. Alas, alas, my tongue also, like me, is wicked by nature. This is not something that's just acted. This isn't just a pretense. This is what they actually feel. That's why I'm reading it, because I'm not on this stage. To this day, it licks up bitter gossip. I'm just gossiping. And it's so bitter. And it's all full of falsity, as if it were nectar. But it is lazy. But it is lazy to taste the ambrosial, the nectarine names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagavan. He's talking about his tongue. Alas, alas, sleepiness overwhelms me as soon as I sit to hear Harikatha. But if material gossip starts, then my sleepiness vanishes and I am all ears, eager to imbibe it with complete attentiveness. In this way, time and again, this is amazing. This is what he feels. Listen to this. In this way, time and again, I have disgraced the assembly of saintly persons. He's disgraced the assembly because he's sleepy. Even in my old age, what bad activity have I not endeavored to perform merely to fill my ever dissatisfied belly? I do not know in which hell I am destined to suffer the results of these wicked acts, nor for how long. Humility is actually coming. And truth is actually coming. He's accepting, oh my gosh, how many lifetimes have I wasted? You know, what? You see? This is a reality. This isn't just hearing and, oh, wow, okay. No, this is actually heartfelt, realized. This swan-like devotee, the devotee in Ruchi, gripped by this state of lamentation while living on this earth, repeatedly relishes and offers obeisances to the nectarian characteristics of Sri Bhagavan. So he's always offering his obeisances to Krishna and his characteristics, his name, form, everything. But he's feeling himself so fallen, so lonely, and so not doing bhakti. Such characteristics are the essence of the fruit of the wish-fulfilling vine of the great Upanishads, which hold the most confidential of all topics. Those are the characteristics of Bhagavan. Leaving aside all mundane talk, such a devotee with Ruchi, first sits in an assembly of sadhus. He'll go to the assembly of sadhus. Then he will he will live near the sadhus. And finally he'll enter their friendship, their fellowship. Sometimes he takes refuge in Bhagavan's holy abode, in the Dham, Vrindavan Dham, Navadvip Dham, where he performs steadfast, unsteady, completely steady, immaculate service to Krishna. He completely gives his mind to that service and eventually attains full absorption in it. So it begins, especially in the Dham, in the association of sadhus. It was a specific service. And he becomes so absorbed. To the ignorant, now this is the thing, to the ignorant people around him, he appears to be scatterbrained. No brain. This is how the person appears to those who are not devotees, or lower devotees. But this is beautiful. The female dancer, named Ruchi, personally begins to give him lessons on the blissful dance of bhajan, as if taking him by both hands. Consequently, that devotee is seized by an unprecedented joy. So what looks outside to be miserable, especially, but actually inside, he's feeling so, but this joy is coming. It's a spiritual joy, completely different from material sense gratification. Completely different. See how humble the person is. How he thinks he's so fallen. But actually, his taste for hearing and chanting is going, like this. And so Ruchi herself comes and starts teaching him how to, this is spontaneity. You see, before it was with our intelligence, but at this stage it becomes spontaneous. You see, it's starting to transform, and that this internal joy, spiritual joy is coming. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, now, this is where he ends, and then we have the commentary. And in due course, after this teacher, the dancing teacher of Ruchi, has been there, then 2 more teachers of dance come. What are they? Bhav and Prem. And they make him dance. And who can know in which realm of bliss he will reside? This is Ananda, Ladini Shakti. It's a whole nother kind of happiness. It cannot be compared. So we're starting to come out of the misery of Anarjanavritti and all the sword stabbing us, finally. By patience, by constant practice. See, we're proving ourselves. We learned before that because we had committed offenses, Bhakti Devi is withdrawn back and watching. And we've been allowed to come back to Bhakti because our Bhakti was gone. And she's watching, okay, now. Are you going to commit more offenses? No. Are you going to just practice Bhakti? Okay, I'll give you. Okay, now some Nishta. Now Ruchi. Bhav can come. This is the promise of Bhakti Devi, the promise of Srinam, promise of Sri Guru. The process of bhakti is actually the unmanifested form of who? Srimati Radhika. It is Srimati Radhika herself, her mercy. She's Prem Guru. From her it's all coming. You see? And she's very merciful, very kind. She doesn't like to see the spirit soul suffering. She doesn't. But we have to be trained. We cannot attain Krishna with improper mentality, with the desires for our own sense gratification. She won't like that. She won't like it if we're trying to get something from Krishna instead of giving to Krishna. Srimati Radharani is the topmost. She's watching. Do you have the proper consciousness? Can we give you bhav yet? Can we give you prem? Or do you want to misuse your independence and keep misusing your independence and use your free will improperly and try and be the controller and the enjoyer and the friend of all, be Krishna? Are you going to finally give up this false ego, this ignorance, and just want to be the servant of Krishna and eventually my maidservant like this and just want to give pleasure to Krishna or assist me in my service to Krishna? It's a transformation. It's an evolution like that. So now I'm just going to finish up with the commentary because as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, thus ends the bhavanavad of the fish shower of nectar named upalabdasvada, meaning realization of transcendental taste. So I think we have a little bit of time.
We have like 6 minutes.
Okay, so we will.
1 hour.
Okay, so I will just finish up here. It's really beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
And I cannot just speak it because I'm not in Ruchi, that's for sure. A sadhak in whom Ruchi has awakened. This is Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj speaking. A sadhak in whom Ruchi has awakened manifests bodily, vocal, and mental anubhavs. That means our expression of spiritual emotions of the heart. So in Ruchi, these anubhavs start to manifest. And they're manifest completely in bhav and perfected in prem. Here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the behavior of a sadhak so that we can easily understand it. A person whose heart has blossomed with Ruchi is called a Jata Ruchi Sadhak. Such a sadhak converses with his companion, the mind, as follows. So he's talking to his mind. This is his friend. Oh friend, my dear mind. It's like Manashiksha Raghunath Das Goswami. Why do you abandon the nectar of the sweet names of Sri Krishna and instead remain absorbed in talking about how to acquire and maintain material objects, which are extremely troublesome to attain? So he's talking to his mind. To the degree that Ruchi for the Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes have awakened in the sadhak, he develops a corresponding distaste for that which is unrelated to Krishna, such as a disdain for material objects and topics. Upon noting the earnestness of his beloved friend, the mind, to amass material objects, the Jata Ruchi Sadhak feels much sadness. He feels very sad. Now, if we haven't come to this stage, we actually usually get pretty happy. But at this stage, we get pretty unhappy. Oh no, I'm wasting my time. Indeed, the nature of bhakti is such that when she even slightly manifests her splendor within the sadhak regards himself as most unqualified and degraded, humility, and he begins to condemn himself. It is solely this distress, characterized by the feeling that he has no bhakti, that gradually elevates this sadhak to the higher stages of sadhana. So it's essential that this true humility comes, you see. But it only comes when we start to really have a taste. Because if you don't really have a taste, you're not going to be sad because you're getting a good taste out of material sense gratification. You see, and you only have to control yourself to do your bhakti by your intelligence, because you'd actually rather be doing this other over here. Because you see what I mean? We haven't actually been given taste yet. Real taste hasn't awakened. We haven't evolved that far. So, but in Ruchi, finally, real Ruchi is real taste. In spiritual practices, and the practice of bhajan is coming like that. You see, instead of Ruchi in the material objects, you have the tongue, the eyes, the nose, like this. So a sadhak in the stage of Ruchi condemns himself as follows. Oh, my dear friend, the mind, what more can I say to you? Fie on me, I am most wretched and detestable. By the mercy of my Gurudev, I attained Bhagavad Bhakti, but I did not honor it even slightly. Just as one who easily attains a precious jewel and binds it in the hem of one's cloth becomes unmindful of it. So Gurudev gave us bhakti, gave us a practice and everything, but we haven't been so mindful of it. We've done some other things. Instead, just to fill my belly, I wandered here and there in search of insignificant wealth, and I absorbed myself in materialistic gossip. In this way, my whole life has been passed in vain. So many songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur like this. Krishna, you're my only shelter now. I'm at the end of my life, and I've wasted everything. The thugs of lust and desire for fame and everything have come, and they're just throwing me back into the material ocean. You're my only shelter, Krishna, please. This kind of humility. Unable to perform bhajan, I spent all my time engrossed in mundane talk and false gossip. which are related only to sense gratification and not to Sri Krishna. Still, I relish this with my tongue as if it were nectar, and I was indolent in regard to hearing Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Alas, alas! I would become overwhelmed with sleepiness as soon as I started to hear Harikatha. But if at that time some mundane gossip began, my sleepiness would instantly disappear. I would become all ears. I do not know how many times I have disgraced the assembly of saintly persons by such behavior. And then Srila Narayana gives a little comment. If someone begins to fall asleep while listening to Harikatha in an assembly of devotees, it affects other listeners who then also feel sleepy. Then he says, someone observing this, you're following, everyone's going, so someone's watching this. This is how the person's singing, the Percy and Ruchi. Someone observing this may wonder, do the people in this assembly sleep even while hearing Harikatha? You see, someone outside is, oh my God, they're just sleeping. You see? And so this outside person criticizes the assembly of devotees. And this criticism passes from one person to another, and as a result, the entire assembly of sadhus is defamed. And it's been my fault because I fell asleep. A sadhak in whom Ruchi has appeared remembers this past condition and reprimands himself. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? What deep feelings are here. Lamenting thus, devotee in Ruchi continues, although I am old, what wicked acts have I not attempted to perform, simply to fill my belly, which is never satisfied? To endure the result of these sinful acts, I do not know what hellish planet I am destined for, nor for how long. He actually feels like this. And he feels like, see, just because he feels so bad about falling asleep in Harikatha. Do we feel bad about it? We just think, oh God, I missed out. Me. We don't feel like, oh my God, I'm disgracing the whole assembly. Do we feel like that? No. In this way, being gripped by a state of callousness to the material world, he becomes disinterested. The swan-like devotee in Ruchi repeatedly relishes the nectarian characteristics of Śrīdhara. These characteristics of Śrīdhara are the very essence of the fruit born of the wish-fulfilling vine of the great Upanishads, and they emanate from the lotus lips of exalted saintly personalities inhabiting this earth. So it's the Harikatha coming and the Kirtan coming, isn't it? He's just starting to relish and relish. The sadhak now leaves aside all mundane talk. In Ruchi, it's gone, and exclusively resides in the society of sadhus. Sometimes he enters the temple of Bhagavan, and sometimes steadfastly absorbed and becomes steadfastly absorbed in performing immaculate loving service to Krishna. In this way, all the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing, chanting, and worshipping, become supremely relishable for the sadhak in Ruchi. Everything's gone. And he feels so bad now he doesn't want to waste any time. No more time wasting. Nothing. No. And he doesn't care what anyone thinks. Now the ignorant people, seeing such a person, they think such a sadhak is mad. Because he doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to be with his family. He's only relishing hearing, chanting, remembering. The most expert dance teacher, Ruchi, takes him by the hands and in the assembly of devotees imparts to him teachings from the lessons on the dance of devotional bliss, Bhajanananda. So when we're with the sadhus, they're actually, through them, the teacher of Ruchi herself, which is Srimati Radhika really, is teaching us how to begin Bhajanananda, the bliss of bhajan, which bestows supreme happiness. At this time, this sadhak in Ruchi experiences an ecstasy never ever felt before. This is a new kind of ecstasy, different from anything, because it's pure, it's spiritual, it's ananda. In due course, the two other masters of dance, Bhav and Prem, come to instruct him. So automatically, passing through a Shakti, Bhav and Prem will come. Who then will be able to describe the extent of bliss he experiences? Such ecstasy is inexpressible. It cannot be spoken of. So it begins in Ruchi. And it starts to become spontaneous. The sequence of which this Ruchi, which is not dependent on external excellences, is awakened and comes to fully ripened stage, has now been described. This Ruchi matures and grows, and at the appropriate time culminates, going through Asakti in Bhav and Prem. Now the author has described all this. The prior state to Bhav, Asakti, is described next. So next week we'll start the 6th shower, which is the Shakti, which is very short. But I might have to kind of read a lot because I'm not in a Shakti. And it's really talking about how this person feels and acts. It's not technical like the rest before Madhurya Kadambini. This is a whole nother realm, a whole nother experience. And when we get to Bhav, some of the parts are much more technical. That's easier to speak about. And in Prem, there are some technical parts. But now we're starting to get into emotion, into Bhav. This is really above me, but anyhow, we'll try the best we can to give something of what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us, so we know what to aspire for, so we don't get depressed, so we get inspired. Okay, the end is in sight. The light at the end of the dark tunnel is there, and all it means is giving up my selfishness, giving up being absorbed in myself, and just saying, I am the servant of Krishna. I am ultimately the maidservant of Srimati. Selfless. Then this Ruchi comes, Yashaka Bhav Prem. Selfless. Just wanting to give happiness to Krishna. Okay? Jai Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vivita Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gandharika Giridhari, Gandharika Giridhari, Gandharika Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Gandharika Giridhari, Gandharika Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha-ramana, Jaya Radha-ramana, Jaya Radhika-ramana, Radhika-ramana, Jaya Radhika-ramana, Jaya Giri-raja, Jaya Govardhana, Giri-raja, Jaya Govardhana, Jaya Govardhana, Jaya Govardhana, Jaya Govardhana, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya
Jai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gora Hari Bol.
Jai Ho! Bhajta Gavadusha, Pipa Sindhita, Patitanam Pavani, Jai Madhurya Kadambini ki Jai Ho! Coming into a Shakti ki Jai Ho!